Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, October 9. If you're watching live on Monday, October 9, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. Our next scheduled meeting is 2 weeks from today, Monday, October 23 at 8 p.m. With a work session at 7. So we have a bunch of announcements and some correspondence, as well as a presentation tonight about our 2016-2017 fiscal year audit report. But I think our first order of business is the happy occasion of a police promotion here in the Pleasantville Police Department. And I invite Chief Grutzner to introduce this promotion.
Good evening, Mayor Shearer, Village Trustees, Village Administrator Dwyer, members, family, and friends of the Pleasantville Police Department and the Pleasantville community. I'm very lucky that as I approach my one-year anniversary as chief of this department, I'm once again tasked with making a promotion about which I'm very happy. I've said many times to many people, we have fewer promotional positions than qualified people to fill them, and this promotion is no exception. Tonight, I will be recommending Thomas Woods be promoted to the rank of sergeant by the Village Board. I believe Tom is an excellent candidate who will do a tremendous job in his new position. Prior to his police career, Thomas was a member of the U.S. Army, and he served in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. During his service in the Army, Thomas's ability to lead others was recognized, and he was promoted to corporal. After he got out, Thomas Woods began his law enforcement career here in 2004. He began his law enforcement career in 2004 and was hired in Pleasantville in 2011. In the 6 years he's been a member of this department, we have also recognized his potential and the positive effect he has on those around him. He served as a field training officer, which is a position steeped in tradition in law enforcement. Only those officers who truly deserve it are given the opportunity to have such a direct impact on new officers. The qualities we saw in Tom that made him a natural fit as an FTO are the same qualities we expect him to bring to the department as a sergeant. Tommy can be quiet at times, but those of us who know him have the utmost respect for him. He's never afraid to speak his mind when the time is right, and everyone knows where they stand with him. I'm going to ask him to continue this style of unassuming and straightforward leadership in his new position. I'm confident he will continue the line of hirings and promotions that reflect the sense of what this department is and what it will continue to be. A department that the residents of Pleasantville can be proud of. Mr. Mayor, at this time, I would like to fully and without reservation recommend Thomas Woods be promoted to Sergeant of the Pleasantville Police Department.
Thank you, sir. With that strong endorsement and the endorsement that comes from the 5 of us, although only 3 are here tonight, Thomas, I invite you to come forward and take the oath of office for the position of sergeant. You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Thomas Woods,
I, Thomas Woods,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the codes of the Village of Pleasantville,
the codes of the Village of Pleasantville,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
for the Village of Pleasantville
for the Village of Pleasantville
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. We generally avoid the liability associated with sticking a badge of this on, and am I correct in believing your fiancée Rosemarie is here? Welcome. There you go. Make him a sergeant. All right. there an oath to be signed?
There is. Step on up, Sergeant. Thank you, Chief.
While Sergeant Woods is signing the oath book, let's jump ahead a little bit. Steve, resolution number 169.
Hold on.
There you go. You want it?
Yep. I got it. Resolved that the Board of Trustees, based upon the recommendation of the Police Chief, hereby appoints Thomas Woods to the position of Police Sergeant effective October 9th, 2017, at a salary of $123,314.06. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Welcome to the ranks, our newest sergeant. Sergeant Woods, I congratulate you. Chief, congratulate you and Lieutenant Woolman, Lieutenant Listwan, and the entire force, many of your officers here as well. We couldn't be happier about the great progress we've seen in the Pleasantville Police Department, and can only ratify your comment that you have more good people than promotional positions to provide. So that's a happy position to be in, and I thank you all. So we have a thrilling balance of our meeting. You're welcome to stay.
You guys can
Steve
stay.
won't be offended.
Good night.
Have a good night. Good evening.
All right, we had a few announcements to make while folks rearrange. The recycling committee and their crew have organized, as they always do, the annual Halloween costume swap down at the gazebo every Saturday, October 7, which has already happened, but October 14 and 21, the next two Saturdays. You can head on down to the gazebo and leave a Halloween costume that your family no longer needs and pick up a new one. So it's one of the few occasions when you can arrive as Harry Potter and leave as Boba Fett. So that's Saturday, the 14th and the 21st down at Memorial Plaza. We have a report from the Department of Public Works that we'll be starting the annual hydrant flushing. And there is a flushing schedule that, can we get that posted up on the website, Patty?
Well,
Perhaps it already is.
Yes.
But just to let folks know that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, October 23, 24, and 25, we'll have crews out between midnight and 6 a.m. and then again between 10 and 2 p.m. Doing flushing of the fire hydrants. So that involves opening them up and allowing the water to run, make sure the hydrants are all functioning and are properly flushed out. So we get calls every year about why stuff is going on outside your house in the middle of the night, and also why there are suddenly rivers of water running down the curbs. So it's the annual hydrant flushing, and then folks who are interested in checking out which streets are which days can check at pleasantville-ny.gov. If we could get that up by tomorrow morning. Is that
Maybe put it on the Facebook.
realistic?
We have put it on the Facebook feed, but we can remind people again.
While you're at it, make a pitch for the Facebook feed.
Yes, so we haven't officially launched yet. We're hoping to have that happen soon. However, I do encourage anyone who's on Facebook to join the Village of Pleasantville site. There's a link on the Village of Pleasantville Facebook site. On the regular website, there's a link. Or else you can go in your regular Facebook and put in Village of Pleasantville, New York, and you should be able to reach it. So we're still sort of at the training wheels phase of it, but we are regularly posting happenings in the village, updating people about board meetings, among other things, and we're also eager for input, so it's a forum where people can comment on things that are happening or can contact us as well if they're interested.
Thank you for that. Couple of other things to report. I wanted to congratulate Chief Grutzner and our youth officer Morgan Cole-Hatchard. The two of them appeared on radio WVOX last week talking about the opioid epidemic, and they brought along with them the pharmacist from Pleasantville Pharmacy, Sal DeLeo, who has been tremendously cooperative and helpful in this regard too. So thanks to the chief, our youth officer, and to pharmacist Sal DeLeo from the pharmacy, talking about the opioid epidemic and the work that they and Pleasantville Strong are doing to try to get out in front of it. Happy to see that message out, and happy to see Pleasantville front and center about it. We got notice from the county health department that free flu shots are available. If you're interested in taking advantage of that, you need to register at health.ny.gov/go-to-clinic. So that's health.ny.gov/GO2clinic. There are reservations available at the clinics to get a free flu shot if that is of interest. As I mentioned the last time, the folks at the Hawthorne American Legion Post are working with the folks at the Pleasantville American Legion Post, planning the Veterans Day ceremony that will take place here on Veterans Day, which is Saturday, November 11. Working on the details for that, because this, for the first time in a long time, coincides with the farm market, and the usual arrangements are going to have to get adjusted a bit. But that evening, the evening of Saturday the 11th, the American Legion folks in Hawthorne have also organized a concert that's going to take place at Pleasantville High School and will involve a series of professional singers, as well as an opportunity to honor a number of people. So keep an eye out for postings. We'll set that up on the Facebook page as well, and there'll be posters around about that. But again, it's a free concert, and I believe it's 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, November 11, Veterans Day. So we'll have more detail on that soon. So anybody else have other announcements to make?
I have a question. I don't know if it's really an announcement,
Okay.
if it's the right proper moment for it or not.
Sure.
But I was wondering if we had an idea on the timeline for the Bedford Road Con Edison construction, when that's going to get buttoned up.
So do you have the latest on that?
Only
Asked
because
Jeff.
I about lost
Yeah.
a
On
shock absorber.
which part of Bedford Road?
Right past Marmaduke.
The Con Edison
Yeah.
work.
I was just
The
wondering
whole gas main replacement
whether
project.
we
I
have an
don't know.
idea what that
No.
looks
So
like.
I asked Jeff
No.
a few days ago, and if I believe he reported they expected to button everything up and actually repave within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
But
So we can start before.
within the next two, definitely a commitment from Con Ed to get the repaving done before and before the asphalt plants close. So
Right.
okay. I will read aloud and into the record a letter we received from Sunrise Senior Living. Correspondence sent a week and a half ago. Dear Mayor and Trustees, following our last meeting before the board in July, Sunrise voluntarily pulled our application for a 79-unit assisted living project in order to consider the concerns from some on the board and the community. We spent a great deal of time contemplating how best to make a dramatic change to the design such that it would feel like a significantly different project while still serving the needs of seniors in and around Pleasantville. Our potential solution is to redesign the project as a smaller, memory care only building that would be about 1/3 smaller than the original proposal. Rather than a 79-unit, 3-story, approximately 70,000 square foot building, we would be proposing a 2-story, 48,000 square foot building with 55 units. While it would be a departure from Sunrise's new development prototype, we have 2 other existing Sunrises in the U.S. designed this way, one in Sacramento and one in Chicago. This new plan will reduce the impacts on the surrounding areas while serving a specialized need in Pleasantville, one that is difficult to care for through your existing services. It will be a shorter, smaller building, require less parking, and have lower impacts associated with the facility, for example, traffic, personnel, and deliveries. It will likely result in lower tax revenues compared to our original proposal, although significantly more than the property currently yields, and still more than the allowable alternative uses. We would like to speak further with you about this potential compromise solution. If we can come to some understanding and agreement around the concept, Sunrise would be willing to expand it into a full application. Please let us know your availability to meet. Sincerely, Jerry Liang from the Sunrise Community Support Office in McLean, Virginia. So that's been circulated to the members of the board and has also been available as part of our agenda tonight. So I can speak for myself in saying that I think the next step is to invite Jerry to come and talk to us, certainly before they spend a lot of time, money, and effort developing the details of this plan, what would be helpful, I think, to all of us is, and to the community at large, is to have Jerry come and speak specifically to it. And if they have some back of the napkin sketches that would start to give shape to this, that would help too. So I know that Sunrise has made some visits to some neighbor groups in the vicinity of the project, and this is the next step in that process. Anybody have a different view of that? So the results of that, I think, are likely to be, we'll invite Jerry to come back, give him a couple of dates to have a work session discussion in this room, and that will appear on our work session agenda, and we'll let people know when it is likely to happen. But again, my take on that is they're clearly proposing something significantly different. We have an obligation to take a look at what that might be, but it would certainly be in everybody's interest to get a pretty good sense of what that might be like before Sunrise invests a tremendous amount of time and money in further developing it. I think that probably is exactly what he's asking for as well. It's obviously in everybody's interest to try to come to an understanding of the prospects for such a thing as soon as we can. So,
Agreed.
all right. Next on our agenda, we have Rob Danielle from O'Connor Davies here tonight to give us the report on our annual audit, which covers the 2016-2017 fiscal year that ended at the end of May this year. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, nice to see you. Thank you, Mary.
All right. Well, good evening, and thank you for having me present the audit results for the Village of Pleasantville for the fiscal year ended May 31st, 2017. I prepared a PowerPoint, but before I begin, I just wanted to thank the village manager, Patty Dwyer, as well as the finance folks, Mary Schwartz and Noreen Regan, for their audit readiness, their attention to detail, and their professionalism. That combination really makes for an efficient and effective audit. On page 2 of the PowerPoint, I just put together quickly, there's a lot of information, but a lot of it is for you, and I'll briefly touch on it. But we'll go over a quick summary overview of responsibilities and required communications. I'm going to focus on the general fund, although the village operates additional funds, but that's the main operating account that the village board adopts. We'll go through 2017 revenues and expenditures compared to budget. Some of the major revenues, 6 or 7 items that really are the drivers of the budget. A 5-year revenue history that was put together really when the tax cap was enacted back in 2012, really, 2013. Same thing on the expenditure side, some major expenditures, a 5-year expenditure history, a graph really that shows you the sources of revenues and expenditures, and a 5-year fund balance analysis. And then we'll touch upon some of the other funds, some debt service requirements, these other post-employment benefit obligations, and the net pension liability. These two last items really don't impact your budget process, but they are required to be reported in the financial statements and footnoted. On page 3, again, our field work was completed in August. We had some follow-up and completion in September. Our deliverables include the financial statements, and there's 2 pages within the financial statements that we opine on, and that's entitled the Independent Auditor's Report. We also have a management letter and certain required communications, and we also audit the Village Justice Court and issue a separate report. We also audit the Pleasantville Community TV, which is a component unit of the Village of Pleasantville. Page 4, very quickly, and I'm not going to read every bullet, but management's responsibility is to implement appropriate accounting policies and to present the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And since we assist management in preparing the financial statements, we make sure that they are in accordance with the standards. Management is also responsible to comply with laws, regulations, and contracts, and really to provide us all the information so that we can complete the audit. We, on the other hand, take that information and we form and express an opinion on the financial statements taken as a whole. We have issued what is termed an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of opinion that an entity can receive, and it basically states that the financial statements present fairly the financial results of the village as of May 31st, 2017, once again in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We also are required to communicate in writing any deficiencies and internal controls that we uncover, and I'm happy to report that although we may have had one or two comments, nothing rose to a level of a material weakness or significant deficiency. We are required also to communicate any fraud or illegal acts that are noted during the audit, and no fraud or allegations of fraud were noted. We encounter no difficulties in the conduct of our audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements, meaning we didn't pass on any entries. If we found something, we provided it to management, and it was recorded, and there were no disagreements with management. Page 6 is a summary version of your general fund, and it's also found on page 56 in the financial statements. As you can see, there are 4 columns. The first column is your original budget, is what the village board approved back in the spring of 2016. And in the aggregate, your revenues amounted to $14.1 million. You had expenditures of $13.5 million, representing an excess of revenues over expenditures of $682,000. There were some other financing uses, which are transfers in and out of various funds. That third line from the bottom is your net change in fund balance. When the budget was developed, the village utilized $769,000 of its own funds to balance the budget and thus provide a form of property tax relief. The middle column, during the year, certain things happened. In 2017, the village did take in some, in 2016, the pool fund activities were merged into the general fund. So in 2017, we have those activities of the pool fund that were recorded and amended the budget. We also have the music festival, so those revenues and expenditures amend the budget. So when you come down to the bottom, again, that net change went from $769,000 to $1.2 million. The village did appropriate some funds to begin some capital improvements, and that's the increase from $769,000 to the $1.2 million. The third column is your actual results, and as you can see in the aggregate, your actual revenues came in at $15.3 million compared to your final budget of $14.8 million. Again, a favorable variance of over $510,000, roughly 3.4% of your budget. There was also a favorable variance on the expenditure side of the budget. As you can see, your expenditures came in at $13.5 million compared to $14.4 million. You factor in certain transfers made, and the village's general fund ended the year with revenues that exceeded expenses by $283,000. You were able to add that to your opening fund balance of $4.4 million. You end the year at $4.7 million. Again, the bottom there, and we have another slide on this, but there are basically 4 components that comprise the $4.7 million. The 2 most important items are the assigned fund balance of the $350,000, which you are using to balance the current budget year in, the 17-18 budget, and thus provide a form of property tax relief. And the unassigned piece is the monies that are free and clear, which are $4.2 million, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Page 7 was just some selected major revenues that we pulled from the financial statements, about 6 or 7 line items. You can see these derive about 90% of your budget. First line item is your property taxes, and you can see the third column is the current 2017 actual results, and your property tax revenues came in at $10.3 million, comparable to the prior year. You do see a small unfavorable variance compared to your final budget, and that's just a slight decline in collections as of May 31st, 2017. We are able to record revenues that are received 60 days after May 31st, and these haven't been collected within that time frame. The second line item is your non-property tax distribution from the county, your sales tax, comparable to the prior year and also favorable compared to your final budget. The village does have some departmental income, your parks and recreation charges. You can see that those shot up from 2016 from $307,000 to $931,000. and also were favorable compared to your final budget. Again, these include the pool fund activities that were transferred in from the general fund to the general fund. And so 2017 reflects the fees coming in for swimming pool fees, about $175,000. Also, the village, and also in 2017, there was a child care service that was provided by a third party that stopped providing those services. The village took over those services, and these are fees collected from parents. And also included in there is your music festival, which once again was very successful, generating over $200,000 in fees. Your parking permits and parking meters are also comparable to the prior year, with a favorable variance compared to your budget. And these represent some increases that went into effect later in 2016 that continue in 2017. And again, your fines and forfeited bail is consistent with the prior year, once again favorable to your final budget. Your mortgage tax, although it has declined from 2016, is favorable compared to your conservative budget estimate. And the village did transfer in some funds from the water fund after consulting with the state controller. The village was able to take profits resulting from the operation of the water fund, and those monies can be used for payment of expenses and obligations incurred by the village's general fund. Page 18 is more for your information. It's just a 5-year history. Again, this dates back to when the tax cap was enacted in 2012 and 13. Property taxes, as you can see, slightly increasing, and again, all within the tax cap. 2013, 2014, we see a little spike in 2015, and that's when in April of 14 the village board did vote to override the tax cap, which did affect the 2015 budget. But in 2016 and 17, you can see that these property tax revenues are all within the tax cap, and slight increases within the percentage allotted. Your non-property tax distribution from the county, also, you can see that those are trending upwards from $955,000 to a little over $1 million in 2017. Your parks and recreation charges were also trending upwards with a spike in 2017, and that's correlated with an increase on the expenditure side of the budget as well. You took on those activities, but there were also salaries involved, so you'll see a spike on parks and rec expenditure side. Your parking permits and parking meters also are trending upwards. Again, certain fees were increased in 16, so you see a little spike in 16, and that has continued in 2017. Your fines and forfeited bail has been trending upwards as well. And your mortgage tax revenues, which are correlated to interest rates, you can see that there are certain dips and increase in 2016 when the interest rates were on the low end, and that's kind of leveled off in 2017. Page 9 is just some selected major expenditures. Again, there's about 6 or 7 line items that derive about 85% of your budget. If you look, we'll start with the police. When you compare the 2017 actual results to 2016, comparable to the prior year, you do see a savings compared to the budget. Although we did see some normal contractual raises, the police overtime was down about $70,000. That was offset with the purchase of some vehicles and equipment, roughly around $50,000. Transportation expenditures are up about $150,000 or so compared to 2016. Again, there was some snow removal overtime. Roughly, that was up about $35,000. Some sand and salt purchases up about $30,000, and some street lighting supplies up about $60,000 or so. Parks and recreation programs, you can see that the expenditures are up over $600,000. Again, this correlates to the increase in revenues. Taking on those responsibilities, the Panther Club, there were additional salaries, part-time salaries, pool activities expense, music festival expenditures. The employee and police retirement, you can see, is up very slightly. Again, for police retirement, the overtime was down, so salaries were down, and that was coupled with a slight decrease in the rates. And even in the employee retirement system, those rates decline about 15%. So you would have expected those two retirements to shoot up, but they're only at very nominal amount, about $40,000. Your health insurance compared to the prior year is up about $130,000. That's your normal night ship increases, anywhere from 6 to 8%. Your transfer to debt service is based on principal and interest payments on your outstanding bonds, and that's pretty much well known. And then your transfer to the capital projects fund, annually the village transfers funds to the capital projects fund to move forward with capital improvements. The final budget is amended, and these budgets are amended based on the needs of the village and its capital requirements. Page 10, again, is just a 5-year history, and I apologize, the 2017 column should be pulling from the actual on page 9. It's pulling from your original budget. I will fix that and send you a new copy. But again, on just the same thing on the police side, the expenditures, no large spikes. You would expect these gradual increases over 5 years. Transportation expenses, again, no spikes in just your normal increases from year to year. Parks and recreations also trending upward with a slight increase in 2017 based on the activities we just talked about. The police retirement expenditures actually saw some dips, ups and downs, but with the rates coming down, and they're expected to come down in 2018, the village should see some additional savings. Health insurance is the one item that has been trending upwards about 6 to 8% per year, and that continues in 2017. And your transfers, once again, debt to the debt service fund. These are based on known amortization schedules, based on your indebtedness. And the transfer to capital projects, once again, is based on the needs of the village in any particular year. And those could swing in either direction. Page 11 is just a graph of the top drivers of the budget. And if I just break down the top 3 on the revenue side, it's really your real property taxes, which make up about 66% of the budget. You have certain sales. You have your sales tax, which make up about 7% of your budget. And you have another category called other, which include your payments in lieu of taxes, your franchise fees, and this year the water fund transfer in. And that makes up about 15% of the budget. On the expenditure side, the top 3 drivers are your public safety, your police and fire, your culture and recreation, the additional programs that the village operates, about 17% of the budget, and your employee benefits, which are a little over 22% of the budget. Page 12 is what I talked about a couple of slides back, and this is a 5-year history of your fund balance. If you look at the total fund balance, you can see that you've added to your fund balance every year over the 5 years. But the most important number in looking in the 2017 column is your unassigned. Your unassigned is free and clear. That's $4.2 million. We'd like to compare that to your 2018 adopted general fund budget, $15.6 million. And your unassigned fund balance is well over 27%. So again, extremely healthy fund balance to have, and you have the flexibility in case there's some unforeseen circumstances. Also to note in the assigned line is the $350,000 that you use to balance the 17-18 budget and thus provide a form of property tax relief. Page 13, just quickly, the village does operate 6 or 7 other funds. The water fund ended the year with the revenues that exceed expenditures by about $35,000. And that has an ending fund balance of $1.2 million, even after the transfer to the general fund of $325,000. Village also has a debt service fund that also ended the year with a net change in fund balance of a little over $5,700, and also has an ending fund balance of $292,000. Village has a capital projects fund, and currently there are 7 active projects, and that fund balance totals $528,000. As I mentioned before, the operations of the pool fund were combined with the general fund last year. So although we do show comparative, you'll see a 16 activity. You won't see the 17 activity, and then it goes away. It's combined in the general fund. And lastly, the refuse fund also had revenues that exceeded expenditures by about $50,000. And that has also good fund balance of $329,000. Next couple of pages are some informational. These are your debt service requirements. At the top is the village has outstanding bonds of $11.6 million. To the bottom, to the left, we are required to report those payments over the next 5 years and then in increments of 5 years. And as you can see, in 2018 and 2019, your debt service requirements are about $1.9 million, and then they drop down to $1.1 million. That schedule to the right is just showing you the percentage of your debt service as a percentage of your overall budget. So if you look at the general fund, your debt service requirements for 2018 are about $927,000 on a $15.6 million budget. So in the general fund of the debt service requirements for the general fund budget are a little over 5.9%. The water fund also has debt service requirements of about $927,000 on a budget of a little over $4 million. And that is roughly generated at 22.7%. And the refuse funds has a nominal amount of $18,000 compared to a $1.1 million budget, roughly 1.7%. Quickly on page 15 and 16, once again, the village does have other post-employment benefit obligations. These don't really affect your budget process, only to the, with the exception of the line, about the fourth line up from the bottom, contributions made. You do fund these obligations on a pay-as-you-go basis. New York State has not issued a funding mechanism to set monies aside to cover this, so you can't put these funds in any kind of trust to pay for these. But they are required to be recorded in your village financial statements, and there's probably about 6 or 7 pages of footnote disclosures. Right now, the state allows you to amortize this over 30 years. We are picking up the $8.4 million, and these represent obligations that are due retirees based on contracts that you have in effect today, labor contracts that you have currently in place. I only bring this up because the regulations have changed beginning in 2019, 2 years from now. They did away with the amortizing it over 30 years. You're going to pick up the top number, the actuarial accrued liability. So your entity-wide statements, if you will, are going to go from $8 million to $19.5 million. Again, doesn't affect your budget process, but there is a piece in there that you are pay as you go every year. That's $640,000 that does run through your general fund. Also on page 16, net pension liability. Again, you're not going to get a bill from the retirement system. It's something that is required to be recorded. The top of the page, you can see that the village operates in the employee retirement system and police and fire retirement system. The top chart that says total pension liability is the New York State pension liability, and those numbers are,
Thank God.
$177 billion for the ERS. The fiduciary net position, or the cash in the plan, is $168 billion. So the state's liability is the $9.3 million. So really for the ERS program, they are unfunded by 5.3%. So you would say 94.7 compared to New Jersey, Connecticut.
It's very good for a state.
Extremely good. But they require you to report your proportionate share of that unfunded piece. So if you look down in that red chart, the village's proportionate share for the ERS program is that 0.0130318%. So if you do the math and you take the $9.3 billion times that percentage, we are required to record at the middle column because they're using a 7% assumption rate. So we are required to record a liability for the $1.2 million. But we also are required to disclose, hey, if the assumption was 6%, what effect would it be? And that would be a $3.9 million liability. On the other hand, if they used a discount rate of 8%, you would actually have a net pension asset. That's the bracketed $1 million.
And would they send the penny back?
What's that? No, this is, I mean, you still get your bill and you still.
I mean, not to interrupt,
Yeah.
but while we're on this,
Sure.
I mean, just for the benefit of those who are watching, amid the many complaints we might have about Albany, the pension fund stacks up pretty well as compared to the other 50 states, 49
Yes,
states. Is that true?
Absolutely, it's one of the top in the country.
In terms of the percentage that it's actually funded.
Correct. Same thing, and I don't have to go through the math, but same thing for the police retirement system. That system is unfunded by 6.5%. You take that percentage, the .0822, and that derives that liability of $1.7 million. Again, I bring this up because it is something that has added to your footnotes, probably 8 pages, and this is where the page before, the other post-employment benefit obligations, that's where they're heading to, same type of presentation. Right now, I believe your actuary on the OPEB plan uses a 4.5% discount rate. That drops to 3.5%, what the impact would be if that increases to 5.5%. So there's some talk about the plan's assumed rate that they're using. And that's it. I mean, in the last page 17, we do consider fraud in our audit process. We do a lot of inquiries of management and other personnel throughout the village. We review journal entries for reasonableness for the underlying source document. When was that journal entry posted? What time? Was it done on a weekend? Things like that. We look at canceled checks to make sure that the village is adhering to their check signing policies. And we review bank reconciliations for unusual disbursements or out-of-sequence checks. And again, there were no instances of fraud or potential fraud that was identified. I know I went through a lot of information. If anyone has any questions, any follow-up afterwards. As I said before, we do also audit the Village Justice Court, and that's a separate report. We do audit the Pleasantville Community TV, which is also a separate report. It is also included in the village's financial statements. And we do have what we term our communication of internal control matters. It's also a separate document.
Thank you for that thorough report, and we'll post both the full audit, and I think it'd be helpful to post this summary statement as well on the web if
I
we
can
can.
do that.
That'd be
Sure.
great.
I'll make those adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rob, back to page 14 of that summary where it shows the percentage of our general fund, of each of our funds budgets devoted to principal interest. What would you say about those percentages as compared to what might be described as benchmarks we might have in our mind?
For general fund purposes, for the size of your budget, anywhere from 5 to 10%. So you're at the lower end.
So we're at 5.93%.
Right.
And in an environment where 2 years from now we see a significant retirement of debt,
Right.
that leaves us with, by that description, obviously quite a bit of flexibility just based on the retirement of debt, but also we're nowhere near a threshold where our overall indebtedness would suggest that we're getting at the higher end of benchmarks.
No, it would actually decline unless you had some
Right.
capital projects in there.
Right. And maybe this isn't your realm, but what do the bond rating agencies look for in terms of levels of indebtedness?
I guess there's a double-edged sword, I guess. Every community needs your capital improvements.
Right.
So if you don't address those at some point, your rate is going to skyrocket.
Mhm.
You're going to have to do those. So if you're doing these improvements on a level scale annually, and the village does budget certain amounts to transfer
Right.
capital to do these improvements, you won't see these spikes. So they don't want to see the upswings and downswings.
Right.
If you're level, that's what they look for.
Uh-huh. Okay. Other comments, questions?
Right, so most
got
of my
Post-it notes,
stickies
yeah.
are based on the 5 or 6 pages of notes you talked about, coming from that pension switch.
Sure.
So when we pick up that 19 million, right?
Right.
That'll be in 19 as of,
Correct.
so it'll be for next fiscal year
that's-
for us?
that's-
Following.
The following
That's
fiscal.
healthcare, not pension, right?
No, that's pension.
OPEB?
Yeah, that's healthcare. That's other
It's healthcare.
post-employment benefits.
Right.
Okay.
It's our commitment to healthcare,
Right,
right.
not the
So,
pension.
so,
Because the pension gets paid by the state.
okay, did I have that wrong? I might have had
No,
it.
the number's right. It's just,
The number's
the
right,
number
but,
is commitments we've made to retarees for healthcare.
Right, OPEB, right. Okay, so in here, and I'll try to go by the ones that I think I can figure out on my own, or maybe I'll call you or you guys offline. But so on page 44 of the notes, we have an interest charge on the net OPEB obligation of $330,000.
Correct.
And you'd said that this is not a thing that the state has really created a funding mechanism for and all that. So is that actually being accrued to our, is that an interest charge because we're not funding this obligation?
No, this is a calculation that's performed by your actuary, but it doesn't impact your
It's
general
not,
fund.
it's not a cash charge.
No.
It's not accruing a balance. It's not like one of those things where it's compounding because
No, and
30 grand this
it's
year
not
is
accruing,
40
but
grand
it's
next year.
increasing your overall obligation that, that you're paying on an annual basis, if you will.
But
The
we're not
only
really
impact-
paying it.
You're only paying to the extent where you say contributions made.
Right.
So it
So
does.
is that 19 million accruing at an interest rate every year because we were only putting 640 toward it? I'm trying to understand what that mechanism is.
No, those are just, I guess it could have an interest factor based on what the actuary calculates. These are costs that are,
This is handed to us from the state, in a way.
no, these are costs that are included in your labor contract.
Right. Do we know what that interest rate is?
I believe it's 4.5%.
Yeah, I think it's 4.5%.
4.5. I was just curious where that goes. So a year from now, will this 19.5 be 19.8 because of the $300,000 in interest?
That'll be up to the actuary. It could potentially be, yes. But that gets recorded on page 11 of the financial statements. You won't see it directly on that statement, but it's in the line that says non-current liabilities due in 1 year or due more than 1 year. Again, these are what we call the entity-wide statements.
Right. Just the
just-
due in more than 1 year, right?
Right. Just so you like in municipal accounting, in your capital fund, when you issue a bond, it's revenue.
Right.
In the commercial world, in the real world,
It's
when
debt.
you issue, it's debt. It goes on your balance sheet.
Believe me, it's
But
taken me a
in the
whole
s-
term of it as being a trustee to get my head around
But in the
some of
same
these
token,
things.
when you use that money to make your capital improvements, it's an expense
It's an
in the
expense.
fund.
Right. It's not
In the
that's-
commercial world, you would capitalize
Right.
it and depreciate it.
Right.
So
So
this
is
is
there
where
anything-
you capture all those commercial, like this is, makes the village a real world.
Real world entity, okay. Yeah.
We're so proud.
Is there anything we need to be doing, and this is really a question for everybody, is there anything we need to be doing that we're not doing, or that would be best practices around this 19.5 and this whole issue?
I think you're committed based on these contracts. I think you do have your actuary come in. We talk about interest rates.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I know they're disclosed properly, I just want to make sure that we understand, because I didn't really, until these notes were here, I didn't really get that.
I mean, it's the commitment we've made to retiree healthcare.
It's
Right.
consistent with
Right.
other villages.
Right, okay.
in the
And so-
area.
It's unfunded to the extent that, unlike some of the circumstances where money is set aside to pay that, we're paying it out of our current general fund activities every year, which is what all governments do.
Correct.
On a pay-as-you-go basis, like you said, right?
We don't have the alternative, right?
We don't.
We don't
Not
have
at
the
this
right
point.
to fund this in advance.
And I don't know if that would happen with the tax cap in place.
Yeah, you could, how would you ever in a million
Well,
years
we
be
just
able
set
to
aside
do
19 million.
that? Right. And so in a sense, they've kind of got you coming and going, because we have to disclose that obligation, but we
Right.
have no way to really address it.
Right.
Ah, great.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I don't want people to have the wrong impression. This is a stable system, and our existing budget incorporates the money we currently pay for retirees who are entitled to benefits that come out of our
Right.
kitty. So,
of course.
and absent some dramatic change in that, obviously, healthcare expense premiums being the dramatic change, with a relatively stable employment base and a relatively stable sequence of retirees,
Should stay low.
It should stay where it is.
right,
Ish.
right.
Right, no, actually,
The impact on our year-to-year budget is reasonably understood. If healthcare premiums double, then we've got that problem in
Oh, there it
multiple
is,
lines.
4.5%.
Right.
Right, I wasn't insinuating
Yeah,
at all.
no,
that
no, I didn't mean that you
system
were.
is
I
unstable.
just didn't
What-
want people to misunderstand what.
Why I brought it up is actually, I think if anybody actually gets this and digs through a little bit, their eyes are gonna widen a little bit with with a $19.2 million liability on
Right,
that.
well,
on
which
that
is a
balance
number
sheet
that,
you
I
mentioned.
mean, what's
Right.
that, 2 years ago or something, those numbers had to get worked out, how long ago? 10 years ago, you didn't do this.
Correct. This
Right.
was about
Right.
5 or 6
Yeah.
years.
But in
Time
a year
flies.
and a half or so,
Seems like 2 years.
we're gonna go from 8 and change, we're gonna pick up another $10 million worth
Right,
of
but-
liability. So I wanted, just for my own edification, I'm not trying to
No, I
say the
understand,
system's bad, I just
Yeah, and
wanna.
just to give you
understand
comfort, I
exactly
mean,
what
you're at the 19. Other villages with the same type of budget, that's probably, you're at the low end.
that- Yeah.
We've seen up to $100 million. So, again, I think what the GFOA, the government finance officers, is trying to do is to
You keep
put,
telling us that, that's good.
Yeah,
no, just they're trying to put all the liabilities on this page 11.
Understood.
Yeah,
So,
and it's-
so every community, you know, you
In
issue
full
bonds, you want
disclosure, right.
to be on a.
Well, and honestly, it's a
same-
worthwhile venture to understand,
It is a true liability.
and the
Just don't-
commitments made to
Well, and that's where I think I'm
It's really
trying
a
to connect over to
long-term
the commercial
liability.
world is because it is a true liability,
It's a
right?
long term.
And yet there's no way for us to reserve for it or really
Correct.
mechanically do the finance around addressing it, really.
Correct.
Okay.
Does the state, for their own employees, show that number now? Or are they?
State's financial.
they're-
Yeah. Okay, I will be quick with the remaining stickies. All right, so we're still using a 7% discount rate, right? Has there been any chatter around changing that?
Actually, there's also a teacher's retirement system. They
Right.
dropped that rate by 1 percentage
Really?
point. So there has been talk.
Okay,
Nothing is official, but.
so that changes a lot of our numbers.
Right, but with the market on a
May
upward trend.
may fix it.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then another quick question I had, and this is probably more for you guys. On 43, we talk about the, 42 to 43, we talk about the voluntary defined contribution plan that the village offers or can offer. We have nobody participating in this program now. Is that a thing that we just don't have anybody doing it? We don't really offer it?
There's a threshold, and
Okay,
it would be offered, like, you know, to the deputy treasurer coming in, they meet the criteria that they were hired at a certain salary.
oh, I see, okay,
And then weren't already in the retirement system, they would have the option between the two,
okay.
so.
Okay,
if
so
you
that's
haven't
not
had
for any
anybody-
lack of offering, it's just a function of mechanics.
Well, and it was the way it was structured to limit,
Huh? Sure, so the answer to the question is that the type of employees and the way the program was structured, we didn't have a whole lot of people that really qualified for that or were eligible for that program, and going forward, we may, right? If
Right.
they will have the option between.
We only
the two
have
choices.
9 non-union employees.
Right.
So,
So-
you know, we have a small pool.
Okay. All right. Wait. Where did I put it? I will not hold us up very long, but I have one other set of questions somewhere, which I will look for later. I cede the floor. Thank you.
all right, if you need your time back, we'll
I
give it
will,
to you.
I will reserve, Chairman. Oh, I found it.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. This is also just because I'm trying to understand a lot of this stuff. Our share of the Memorial Plaza grant, Patty, that will have its own fund?
Yes.
So when that fund stands up, where will it slot?
Well, it's going to go into capital.
It'll go into
have its
capital
own
fund?
account number within cap. We've created a capital fund account for it, I think several months ago.
Yeah, I thought so.
So once we start getting into, you know, the reimbursements from the state or charging
And
to
so
them.
then that'll go.
Just the
into
way every other capital project
Yeah.
the
runs.
It'll go into the
Correct.
capital.
Big.
Won't be part of
projects
the
fund.
operating budget
Okay.
because it's multi-year.
Okay, and the last one I have is related to that, the water system recap. Will that also be treated in a similar way?
The water system,
Yeah, you know, we're gonna have that, I think it's in 2018 as well, the water system.
the new project
the
that
new
Jeff
project,
is
right.
proposing, that would be a capital
That
program.
will also go into capital.
Right,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
All right,
Yeah,
any
you're
other
welcome.
questions? So, Rob, as you doubtless know, this is your last occasion to be making this presentation in the presence of Patty Dwyer, unless she comes as an interested audience member, which we hope she will.
Oh, I will, definitely.
That's right, because there's nothing else to do.
I'll call in, too.
I
But-
look forward to
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think the comments you have made tonight and The 5-year analysis we're looking at is testimony to a whole lot of good administration led by Patty, and Mary and Noreen have done an extraordinary job. Our village has done quite a few good things in the last 5 years, and at the same time seen our fund balance grow by about 50%. So fair to say we're in an extraordinarily stable position,
Yes, absolutely.
perhaps arguably even an enviable one.
Could be.
Auditors never give you that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your work and this thorough report, but also to thank Patty Dwyer, coming near the end of a very long and very impressive run. All of us arrive in these places hoping to leave it better than we found it, and this woman has done that in spades. So
You're here.
I appreciate those comments. I can tell you that it wasn't done without lots of heavy lifting from my able and talented finance department and the department heads who get hammered, to follow, our procedures and to be conscientious with their budgets and to take ownership and interest in everything we do here. So you gave me a very talented team, and I could not do anything but succeed here. So thank you. And thank you, Rob.
look, ma, no hands. Yeah, right.
That's right.
Every organization takes on the characteristics of its leadership, and you guys are great examples of that. All of our department heads and yourself, I think, are good examples of that.
Well said. So, all right. I thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Much appreciated. If you could get us those PDFs, then we'll get them up on the web, and anybody who would like to dig into both the overview as well as the detail, we invite you to do so. Thank you, Rob. Much appreciated. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Noreen. Much appreciated, and a report of very positive results from our fiscal year that ended May 31. So with that, we will head to the resolutions. You already had one,
Oh,
so it's
okay.
Nicole's
Thank you.
chance,
Rob, nice to see you.
165.
Thank you.
Okay, so I get my regular
You
one.
get through this.
Yeah.
Resolved that the pre-check register dated October 9th, 2017 is hereby approved as listed below. General Fund, $202,229.95. Special Purpose Fund, $8,519. Water Fund, $122,432.26. Capital Fund, $802.50. Refuse Fund, $13,327.23. Trust Fund, $5,400 for a total of $352,711.44.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions on the check register?
Water fund was high. Anything specific in there that I didn't see?
I don't know that top of my head. No, I didn't get any
It looked pretty
exception
straightforward.
reports.
I think it is, I think I just saw it. I think it is, where'd it go? Oh, well, I scanned it earlier.
In the water fund?
Yeah. It's okay. I can get it.
I'll take a look.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 167, Steve.
167 or 166?
Oh, hold it. Then the bookmark skipped 166.
166, yes.
Yeah, I'm in the PDF, and 166 has been skipped. Go ahead. 166.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Anita Levine as a part-time recreation attendant at a salary of $20 per hour, effective October 2nd, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
motion approved. Now 167.
You're getting all the fun ones.
All right. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the assessor to amend the FY 2017-2018 assessment rule to reflect SCAR, that's the small claims assessment reduction settlements, as follows. Okay, this is for the property at 20 Manville Road. The original assessment was $49,000. The amended assessment is $45,600 for a reduction of $3,400. For the property at 35 Eastview Avenue, the original assessment was $89,500. The amended assessment is $85,500, which is a reduction of $4,000. For 100 Sunnyside Avenue, the original assessment was $59,600. That's been amended to $3,500, which is a $6,000 difference. 390 Washington Avenue was originally assessed at $47,900. It's been amended to $43,000, which is a reduction of $3,450. 53 Guyon Street was originally assessed at $85,220. The amended assessment is $82,000, which is a reduction of $3,020. 19 Romer Avenue was originally assessed at $103,450. The amended assessment is $95,000, which is a reduction of $8,540. Finally, 3 Douglas Drive was originally assessed at $48,450. The amended assessment is $46,400, which is a reduction of $2,050.
Is there a second?
Second.
So these are all the results of the review that takes place when a homeowner goes to the next level of challenging their assessment, the small claims assessment reduction process in the presence of a hearing officer, and these are the settlements that have arisen from that process. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry. I'll ask you later.
Okay. All right. Motion approved.
168?
168.
All right. Whereas Congress is giving serious consideration to eliminating the federal income tax deduction for state and local taxes, and whereas this deduction, which has been in place for more than 100 years, is heavily utilized by residents in our community and our state, and whereas New York residents already pay more into the federal treasury than the federal government returns to New York, and whereas the state and local deduction is a fundamental principle of federalism, and without it our residents would be faced with double taxation, as they would be forced to pay federal income taxes on the taxes they pay to state and local governments. And whereas this federal cost shift to local governments would place extreme pressure on municipal budgets, including diminished revenue for essential local government investments, including public safety and public infrastructure, and whereas increased federal taxation and reduced municipal services will harm our local housing market, decrease home values, and erode our local tax base, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville expresses its strong opposition to any tax reform proposal that would eliminate the state and local or SALT deduction, and urges the village's federal representatives to join us in publicly opposing any such proposal.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is a matter that you may have read about in the press in recent weeks and that we commented on a couple of weeks ago at our meeting. There does appear to have been some progress on that in Washington, and I think it is fair to say that the New York State congressional delegation on both sides of the aisle has been uniform in its opposition to this. The potential loss of that deduction would be, as described in this resolution, a very, 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 very significant problem for folks who live in communities like ours. And it is worthy of note, as also mentioned in this resolution, I saw a report just the other day that for every dollar that New York State residents send to Washington, we see only about 84 cents in benefits. That is distinctly different from the case for some other states, and as a result would make it particularly egregious for our residents to lose this. So any addition to that?
I echo all of that, and suggest everybody, if they are so inclined, to contact their local representatives. There's email capability now on every elected representative's website to make their feelings known about this, to make sure that the folks up there know, or down there know exactly how we feel.
Yes, let's post it on the Facebook
Yeah, that'd
page
be
with
good.
the relevant links.
Great. This resolution is also lines up with the position taken by the New York State Conference of Mayors and also the Association of Towns in New York State. So all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 169 was the appointment of the police sergeant, which we did at the outset while Thomas Woods was still here. Congratulations to our newest sergeant. 170. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Moxie Productions, 222 Purchase Street, Rye, New York, to do a still photo shoot on Tuesday, October 10th and Wednesday, October 11th. Said approval is subject to receiving the necessary insurance documents, securing a location for their trailer, and approval by the police department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very straightforward event taking place in downtown Pleasantville. It's a still photo fashion shoot for a Wall Street Journal magazine editorial. Sounds rather like it will cause few difficulties.
We don't expect any problems.
Did Eric say he was going to detail a police officer for that?
He did,
Yeah, that's not going to be a problem.
no.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
171.
171.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the encroachment agreement with Deborah Perullo, 104 Skytop Drive, to allow for the reconstruction of a retaining wall within the village's public right-of-way.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a matter of the sort you hear us discuss occasionally, where a homeowner has some site improvement, frequently one that pre-existed their ownership of the property that has failed and needs to be rebuilt. That's the case at 104 Skytop. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 172. Nicole.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to enter into an agreement with Wagner Hodgkin Landscape Architecture, 430 Warren Street, Hudson, New York, as set forth in their agreement dated October 9th, 2017, for professional services as it pertains to the Manville Road Corridor Improvement Project, the Memorial Plaza Civic Space.
Is
Yes.
there a second?
Second.
So, folks who may have seen our agenda for last meeting, we met with Jamie Maslin Larson of Wagner Hodgson and Phil Myrick, who is a Pleasantville resident and a member of our planning commission, but in this capacity, a professional planner. The two of them are going to be taking the lead in our effort as part of our state grant program for the Manville Road State Improvements to go through a public visioning process and get public input, and then ultimately to design a new park, plaza, whatever it develops into, at the end of Memorial Plaza by the War Monuments. Our site improvements, funded in large part by the state grant, allow us to reconfigure that area. We're going to substantially improve the pedestrian conditions, and we'll reconfigure the commuter side of the lot, and that gives us an opportunity to create what we hope will be a great new civic space at the end of Memorial Plaza. Jamie and Phil will assist us in sharing with all of you our thoughts, goals, hopes, desires, imagining what could happen there and what sort of a space might support all those activities. So keep an eye out for a couple of public workshops that will engage all of those questions. And then as the project starts to develop, you'll start to see some schematic designs that Jamie's group, Wagner Hodgson, will start to put together. Jamie is herself a distinguished landscape architect with a long history on projects as grand as Governor's Island, and can't be happier to have her and our very own Phil Myrick working on this project. So,
Yes, I think this is a very exciting opportunity for the village, and I encourage as many of you as can to come and be a part of the public workshops that they will be hosting.
anything to add to that, Patty?
No, we will have a meeting on the 19th in Poughkeepsie with DOT, just to talk about the elements of the design report that need to be put together. So this project is starting in earnest now. In the next, I would say, 3 months, we'll probably be very much involved in engaging the board and the village in working on the elements of this grant that we've secured for the Manville Road corridor. So I'm very excited that it's going to start coming together.
Likewise.
I had a quick question on that. In the agreement, I scanned it, probably not as closely as I wanted to. Is there, I saw the hourly rates in there, but is there a cap?
There are deliverables, and then there are, I guess from
Is there
that point,
Budgeted number of hours
Right.
they expect, right?
we won't know until we come up with our final design.
Okay. Oh, well, so we make the down payment and then we,
Right.
will they be giving us a statement? Can we kind of keep our, just curious how the accounting goes so we're not surprised at the end?
Well, yeah, we'll start with a budget that will, be a standard AIA agreement with the firm.
They've proposed a budget to us.
Right, I remember, it's just not in
Right.
the agreement. So I was just wondering if
Yeah,
that
so-
is then,
Yeah, you
Put
should
on
ask
later
Jamie
on,
about
or-
that. The Exhibit D, Scheduled Services, indicates the percentage of compensation after site analysis and programming, 40%, schematic design, 60%. We just ought to put some budget attached to that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
all right, contingent on Patty resolving that. All in favor? Aye, motion approved. As reported, I think this is a great opportunity
Yeah,
for the Village
I
of
agree.
Pleasantville, and two highly qualified professionals bringing to bear their experience and insight and creativity. So great news. So 173, Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments. From the general fund, $6,600 from contingent to safety inspection supplies, $5,000 from legal contractual services to planning and zoning outside services for a total of $11,600. Appropriating from the fund balance in the general fund, a total of $48,927, a transfer to capital for DPW front end loader. Appropriating from the refuse fund, $84,927, again a transfer to capital for the DPW front end loader. Increasing revenue and expense accounts within the general fund, $2,500 for senior center trips, coming out of senior center trips and going to the expenditure account, senior center trips, $36,000 from sale of equipment to transfer to capital, again for the DPW loader. $11,144, an interfund transfer from special purpose fund and tree maintenance programs to shade trees contractual, for a total of that line item of $49,644. Increasing revenue and expense inside the capital fund, $84,926.53. Interfund transfer from general fund, again for the DPW front end loader. Same amount, actually no, slightly different, $84,927 even. Interfund transfer from refuse fund for the front end loader, $169,853.53. Increasing revenue and expense in the general fund, $67,411.17 from the revenue account Pleasantville Strong Drug-Free Community Revenue, and then over to expenditure accounts in an assorted group for the same dollar amount from Pleasantville Strong Part-Time, from a conference line item, from a supplies line item, and from a miscellaneous line item. And as well, what is OS expense? I don't think I know what that means. Do we know what that means?
Outside services.
Outside services expense. Again, for the total of $67,411.17.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions on those transfers?
The
We're just
revenue,
we're
that's
restating
grant,
the
right?
Pleasantville Strong budget. They're on a different fiscal year, so we had to recapture their budget and restate it for the next year.
Okay. I had a quick question. We're taking the same amount of money out of two revenue accounts, one for the general fund and one for the refuse fund, for the same front-end loader.
Correct. They're sharing the expenses.
They're sharing the expenses?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I was wondering about the move for the shade trees contractual. What's that about?
That is just funding our operating budget from a CM account, which is basically a dedicated fund for tree restoration and tree maintenance.
Okay.
We had a lot of work done over the summer in removing some trees that we knew had to be removed, and we needed to pull additional funds into the general fund. We did a lot of tree work this year.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Did we have a second on that? Did we get a second on that, Judy?
I can second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. And last but not least, 174.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the meetings held on September 11th and 25th, 2017.
Well, thank you very much. Comments, corrections to the minutes of either of those two meetings?
Looked okay to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Any new business, any further comment from the public? Our call-in number is 769-1677. No takers on that front. Before we close, I wanted to comment that before our regular meeting, we had a work session, and among the things we looked at was the 2017 13th Annual Pleasantville Music Festival. Bruce Figler, who's the executive director of the festival, came and gave us a report from his standpoint. I think by any reasonable standard, it was an extraordinarily successful day, and one that actually produced a surplus that will help build the kitty against our self-insurance program. And I am happy to report that by acclamation of at least the three of us, which is enough to have an acclamation, the 14th Annual Pleasantville Music Festival will take place on the 14th of July, 2018.
That's great. That is the 14th.
14th on the 14th. It's a Be a nice T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, 14th on the 14th of July. So mark your calendars, 14th of July, 2018 is the 14th Annual Pleasantville Music Festival. With that,
14th on the 14th.
I thank you all for your attention. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, good night, see you in 2 weeks.